he decided that.
Hi everyone, welcome. Thank you so kindly for joining us. Welcome to Green Apple Books on the Park. My name is Cara Johnson. I'm the event coordinator for Green Apple, and tonight I am very happy to welcome Michelle Kicherer as we celebrate her debut novella, Sexy Life. Hello, let's give a hand for Michelle. Michelle is joined tonight by Achy Obejas. Let's give a hand for Achy as well. Thank you. So, yeah, we have seats in the front row. Please grab one. You're welcome to be brave. There's dog in the front. Dog in the front. Okay.
Great. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love those.
Is this planned? Are you hired? No. Okay, sorry.
Also, this is all additional seating next to me too. If anyone is inclined and wants to sit a little closer, you are welcome to. We are broadcasting tonight from San Francisco, which you all know. But hello, online audience. We're here in San Francisco, California. I'm waving to a camera if you can't see. We open each of our events with a land acknowledgement, and as such, I would like to let you know that we are operating on unceded Métis Ohlone land, and we think that acknowledgement requires action, and so we encourage you to donate either your time or monetary means to an Indigenous organization each time you hear a land acknowledgement. We have information about the Métis Ohlone Land Trust at the back desk if you are interested in how to participate in this project of renutriation. And other very brief business before we get to the heart of the hour. Now is a good time to silence your cell phones if you have not already. Picture taking is okay, in fact, even encouraged, but only good photos. No bad photos of our authors. That's not nice. Please do check out our full event calendar online at greenapplebooks.com. We have a really great season ahead of us, including the event you are currently attending. We have copies of books by both of our authors at the front register. You can find them there. If you've been here before, you've certainly heard me say that when you buy books from us, not only do you support us as an independent bookstore, you support the writers who put so much work into making these books, then you get to have a book, which might be the best part. So if you are able, we always appreciate it. And I think they would be willing to sign them at the end of the evening, if you are polite. It costs $5 for, I'm just joking, it's not $5. They'll do it for free. You just have to be nice to them. So thanks for doing that. I'm trying to think about the best order in which to do this. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about our authors first, and then I have a special secret surprise that is particular to the San Francisco event. So I hope you'll bear with me as we get to it here. First, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Achy. Achy Obejas is the author of the bilingual collection of poetry Boomerang Boomerang. She also authored The Tower of Antilles and the novels Ruins and Days of Awe, a recipient of the USA Artist Fellowship, an NEA and a Cintas Fellowship, among other awards. She lives in the San Francisco Bay Area. She was one of the organizers of the 15th November Cuba Poesia, Sin Fin 2021 marathon in support of change in Cuba. She also has a forthcoming bilingual poetry collection called Boy Kingdom, which is out from Beacon in September. So keep an eye out for that. And let's give one more hand for Achy Obejas. And last but most certainly not least, Michelle Kicherer is a fiction writer from California, now living in Portland. Welcome back to the Bay, Michelle. She writes about books for the San Francisco Chronicle, the Willamette Week, and other outlets. Her fiction has been published in the Berkeley Fiction Review, the Nevada Review, and other publications. Her novella, Sexy Life, Hello, was longlisted for the Santa Fe Writers Project Literary Award and won Oregon Regional Arts and Cultural Council grants. Michelle teaches writing classes at Portland Community College, literary arts, and online, and she often encourages her students to get a little weirder. Sexy Life Hello is her debut fiction book, and now, the special San Francisco treat that I will tell you about is that today is Michelle's birthday. So if you're wondering why there were cupcakes here, it's because one of Michelle's lovely friends brought them to share with us, so thank you for that. And without further ado, hold on, pardon me, indulge me for just one moment. Hold on. Okay. It's been the request of Okay. It's been the request of our author that instead of the normal, actually licensed version of Happy Birthday, that we sing the Stevie Wonder version of Happy Birthday. So if you're unfamiliar, follow me. Okay.
Oh my God.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. And that goes on and on like that. So, Michelle, this is for you. Happy birthday.
Make a wish.
This is delightful. Thank you.
You can eat this now, but we can also hang on to it for you.
Well, give me a couple minutes here.
So, without further ado, let's give one more hand for Michelle Kicherer.
Thank you. Do that, I think. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Achy.
Absolutely. Very happy to be here.
Yeah, so good to see you. I haven't seen you since grad school. You were my professor
At Mills.
at Mills
The now
College.
Long gone Mills, as we knew it. Yeah.
R.I.P.
And you were a star student, of course.
Oh. Thanks. Well, yeah, it feels very, very cool to actually be holding a book instead of, I've done reading like excerpts and have like printed pages. I'm not a phone person, but it just felt very, I don't know, this is trippy. So this is really special for me. So I'm really happy that you're all here. And anyone online, hello, Mom, Dad. I don't know if you came, but this is censored for you, so don't worry. But maybe I'll just start. Should I give context? I mean,
Well, depends what you're reading. You gonna read from the beginning?
I am.
Trust them.
I'm gonna trust this smart audience here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Sexy Life, hello here. I'll just say that this is kind of from the opening chapter. And we have Jane as a 4th grade teacher, and Jack is the principal. And I'm just going to leave it at that. That's all you need to know. One afternoon, Jack called Jane to the principal's office. It was after school, and he did it over the intercom in a tone of feigned seriousness that got her smirking the whole way there. When she appeared in the doorway, Jack perked up at his desk, and his eyebrows went up and down like, "Do I have something for you?" Jack opened the top drawer of his desk and then made a gesture like, "Close the door." Jane closed the door. And then there's this moment where things tilt and Jane feels like something is about to happen. Jack holds up a VHS tape and waggles it around a bit. "Holy shit," she whispers. "Holy shit," he agrees. The tape cover features a blonde woman, Cameron's mom, a student, with frizzy 80s bangs and glossy pink lips. She's naked, leaning over a DJ booth at an angle where the vinyl hides the view of her crotch. She's holding up a pair of big puffy headphones that just barely cover her big 80s tits. "She just loves the music," Jack says, pointing at her moaning mouth, at her thin, pursed eyebrows. It was strange to see Leah looking so much younger, her cheeks still fleshy, her lips still full, her hair soft and movable, vagina still tight and pink, Jane imagines. When he rolls the science room TV into the middle of his office, finds the extension cord, interjects a joke about budget cuts, Jack tells Jane the story of Cameron's mom. Jane leans on the edge of Jack's desk, arms crossed and listening, happy as if he's just telling her a bedtime story. One spring day in 1980 whatever, Leah left Central California for Hollywood. The feeling of packing up your old jalopy with 2 bags and a dream makes you feel like fire, she was quoted to have said. She would be an actor, pursue the classic dream. But somewhere early on in the mix, she met a guy named Clark Stable, who said she had real potential. She starred in a porno that would become infamous, one where she allegedly got pregnant with, and her co-star, Rock Solid, had allegedly gone bonkers about it, insisting she keep the baby or he'd ruin her career. "That's Little Rock in there," he was quoted to have said, and multiple televised tangents about how she was supposed to have been fixed. The papers loved it. Mass destruction of Liza Spinelli's labia. Spinelli ruined after bestiality claims. And one of an image of Liza Spinelli next to a pig in the headline, bankrupt. That one was a tabloid, Jack says. It looks like someone physically cut up a photo of a pig and then glued it next to a photo of Leah and made copies. Anyway, after that, no one would hire her. Well, no one that wasn't a creepy freak. Oh, that's really sad, Jane whispered. It really is. Jack sighs as he slides the VHS into the slot. And thus, Liza Spinelli's career was ruined. By men, Jane adds. Then the tape whirs to life. They watch Rock Solid sidle up behind Liza Spinelli at her DJ booth, offering something hardly more than a pickup line as he presses her headphones firmly over her ears, holding them there with one hand as his other hand finds the volume on her soundboard. He slides the volume control up. Jane whispers again, I can't believe that's Cameron's mom. Jack doesn't respond, and suddenly Jane realizes they're watching porn at school. In her head, she's like, wait, turn this off. But she's frozen. Her arms are crossed, but they're also disconnected from her body. Each limb is just some fuzzy thing, and she doesn't know why the lower limbs don't just take her out of there. Still, it's captivating. So she says, do you think this was the time? Jack doesn't say anything, and Jane wonders if he's experiencing that fuzzy limb thing too. That's also the name of a character in Final Fantasy, Jack says. Rock Solid? Liza Spinelli.
So I think that beginning is very tantalizing, but it's also very different from the rest of the book. You want to give them a little bit of an idea of what the rest of the book does?
Yeah. So the very Jane and Jack both get fired. They're let's just say lewd behavior is involved, and so that kind of chapter 1 kind of ends with that and just sparks this whole journey where she suddenly finds herself trying to find work that hopefully won't check her record. So she starts applying all this stuff. She's like, oh, babysitting, I could do that. Oh, nannying, I guess that's the same thing. And okay, all these like Craigslist jobs and stuff. So she gets a nanny job, and then at the same time still gets offered this sexter job that she finds online. So it's sexter for a famous porn star. So she ends up taking both jobs and thus balancing both at the same time at work. Not based on a true story. Some of my former nanny employers are here. Although,
Whoops.
I was like, I hope they come.
You always write what you know.
So let's talk about the inspiration for this work of art.
Yeah, so I guess at the time I was working on a novel that's totally different and a lot like heavier of a topic, and so in between kind of taking breaks from that, I kept I'll say there's a part of that book that I ended up cutting, which was this whole thing where this person was a teacher, and I've been working on that for a long time, this 4th grade teacher, and it just didn't work anymore, and I spent like years with this character. I was like, damn it. So at the same time, I was looking for random gigs. I was ghostwriting at the time, so I was working on memoirs and nonfiction books. And so I was always looking for ghostwriting gigs on Craigslist and other places. And I saw this ad that was like, ghost sexter for porn star. And I was like, oh, interesting. And I just saved that idea somewhere, and it started incorporating into the book. So I started writing that, what if she has what kind of person would do that? And I don't know, kind of the write what you know thing came to me a little bit, but somehow I was like, what would be like a creepy, weird combination of like doing that? Because I don't want it to just be, oh, she's sexting for a porn star. Like, what else is going on? So I was like, well, I tried also writing about when I was in grad school, I wrote this whole book about being an au pair in France. I still have shelved it, and I'm like, I don't know. So anyway, and then a couple years later, I worked on it for a while, and I found a second ad, and this one was more interesting, and it was like ghost sexter for porn star. Like it had like I need to find that exact description, but I started reading it. It was like pretty kooky, you know, like it's like must be okay with animal play and scat play and all this stuff and mystical, whimsical, da da da. And I was like, if the Lord ever gave me a sign, this was it. So I applied. And I was like, I'm just going to say all this kooky stuff and see what happens. And they were like, this is great. And I was like, what? And they were like, we'd love to do a second interview. And I was like, oh my God, so here's this 20 questions questionnaire survey thing. And I was like, all right, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go all the way. So I was just like, oh my, you know, all these crazy animal fantasies. And not, if that's your kink, I mean, it's just not mine. But
You respect it.
yeah, I respect it. I mean, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I made it to the final. Suddenly, I got to the final interview. I'm like interviewing with this whole crew, but she is this famous, you know, porn star, and it was very lucrative. And it was like she has all this sexter crew working for her, and I was like, man, this is great material. It's like if I get the job, I think I'm gonna have to do it. But I didn't get the job. And I wanted to be like, yeah, well, or did I get the job? I don't know. So that's kind of where that started.
So, a sexter, like I'm very familiar with the notion of like the calls and, you know, the video and stuff like that. But the sexter stuff, I mean, it didn't quite work like I thought it would. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah.
It's really a part of the narrative, and some of her, I think some of the funniest moments come around because of the way the sexting gets in the way. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's definitely a reference to like those late night commercials from the 90s and beyond where it's like these ladies are like, hi,
900.
I'd love to talk to you. And so anyway, but so with this, it's like you have to be on a computer, and it's this you interact with clients
And you're pretending to be the porn star.
And yeah, in this case, and some people obviously have their real accounts as their own, but in her case, she's pretending to be this porn star, and so she's like, "Hi, I'm Lola," and exchanging these messages, and basically the goal is turn them on, but to get them to ask for premium content, and so if you're playing them right, they're paying for, you know, certain videos and pictures, and hopefully what she's doing is providing these like custom images, but really she's really beautifully manipulative, where she's like she knows the content she has in a folder somewhere, so if she can somehow trigger them to think about like plastic pigs or whatever, then she's like, oh man, I'm gonna make
Or
it
plush
seem
pigs.
plush pigs, yeah, whatever texture you're into. But if I can get them to think of that, I'm gonna act like I just made them this custom video just for you, and so that's where the big money comes in. And that's how I started interviewing for the job, partly as research, but then I ended up meeting a couple sex workers one of which was a good friend. I didn't actually realize she even did that work, and I was like, what? Let's get talking. So we were kind of validating some of these things, and yeah, so it's a whole world. But yeah.
So talk about your process of writing this. How, you know, and also your choice to go with it as a novella, because it's a kind of an odd choice in a way. You know, the sort of the commercial format is the novel, and there's material here that could have been certainly, you know, made into a novel, and you know, then short stories are sort of the prestige format, right? And there's material here that could have been very sharply condensed into a story, but you chose to go with a novel, which is novella, which is actually sort of perfect for this story, but it's still not a common choice.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I didn't think a whole lot about how long it would be when I was working on it, and originally it was closer to novel size, but I had this whole other character in there that was like her, you know, the narrator had this boyfriend person, and they end up breaking up, and part of it was her being like bummed about this breakup and trying to take a new like empower herself in a new way, and you know, so she's like, I'm gonna be getting really into this sexting job, and you know, fuck that ex. And then I realized like I want it to be about one thing. I don't want it to be about multiple struggles that she's going through. I kind of wanted one of them to be off the page. So she's like, broke up with this guy a long time ago, and she's just kind of how she is right now. And I just wanted to give her that one couple struggles to work through, and one of which was just her identity. Like, she's this very suppressed person. So despite the job she's doing, she's like pretty prudish, and like she's not really that turned on or like into the topic. But I think at the time I was working on it, I had just come out to my family and friends like around that time, and I think I always tell my students, like, the heart, the subconscious is going to do what it's going to do, and it kept coming into stories. There's certain things that I was like, I don't want to write about these, and it just, instead of it being like this person who's like, no, I'm straight, that she was like, no, I'm like, could barely talk about sex at all. So she's not really having, she's not like particularly like turned on or like excited by this yet. She's kind of at this precipice of like change, but this whole experience kind of starts to change her. So anyway, so I started playing with this character that's really not open sexually, and anyway.
I feel like even after I finished reading it, like I felt like she was still hanging around. Do you have that feeling too?
Yeah, well, and I kind of, so I have a part two that's in the works. Because I spent so much time with her, and now I'm like, now I feel like Jane is like, oh man, we just met her when she's like in a certain, now I'm like, now I want to get her to like phase 2 of her life. And so now I want her to be a little more empowered and different without, I don't want to give much away, but like, yeah, I like the idea of following this character for a little bit, and kind of building on this world. Because I'm like, poor Jane, she's such a novella.
But she's very real character. She's very fully realized. I mean, I thought she was, especially, given, the limitations of the format, shall we say, I thought you really did an amazing job sort of bringing her to life. That was pretty cool.
Thank you.
I cared about her the whole way through, and was, delighted by all of her little adventures and her asides and stuff like that. So it was great. That part was really great. I want to have you talk a little bit though about how this book came to be, because you had a couple of offers from more mainstream publishers, let's say, but you made some very specific artistic choices, which I very much admire because I find them very courageous. Can you talk about how this happened?
Sure. Yeah. So I'd had a couple offers on this book. I'd submitted to a few places, and had like a long list of some literary prize, and so I think I had these offers that would limit what I could do artistically. Like I've done voiceover work before. I'm a performer. I have a radio show. Like I really want to do the audiobook. And with both of these, they were like, no, we contract that out. I basically wouldn't have a say in that. And I was like, but I've like performed this for myself so many times. Like I really wanted to do that. And I was also like, I imagined this very moment where I get to read it to people. And I want it to be like, well, that's the audiobook. You can go listen to 2 hours and 14 minutes and hear that performance.
It makes such a difference when you actually do that. I mean,
Yeah.
I think the first 2 audiobooks of my stuff, like whoever was reading it didn't speak any Spanish at all. So when they came upon a Spanish word, they would just mangle it in such a way that it was completely unrecognizable. Like if the word was bodega, they would manage to say something like bodega, I mean, it was horrific, and it has made the whole, experience, it's sort of cringy for me. So I find it so like Amazonian of you to say, fuck that shit, I'm gonna do it myself.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I started talking to write, because I write, for publications. I interview a lot of writers, and this is a theme that's been coming up. Like, because I was getting more and more curious about it once I started submitting. I was like, what's other writers' process? And like, I'm, I like control. But let's say that it's artistic vision. But I was like, I don't want someone coming in and change. Oh, I was going to say all these writers were like, well, the audiobook just came out. And I've heard certain audiobooks, some by like great writers that I shall not name, but like sometimes it's like, you have like the female characters and they're talking in this voice, and like a guy walks in and they're, drill, or
Yeah,
I'm
and the
like,
girl talks like this all
yeah,
the time.
hi. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's just like a weird. So anyway, so yeah, so I ended up. I was like, I'm gonna apply for a grant, and what if I didn't even at first. I was like, I'm gonna just include this in a short story collection later, because that was the other limitation. They were like, oh, you wouldn't be able to release it as part of this collection for X amount of years, and one was in perpetuity. And I was like, what? I can never. There's so many short story collections that it starts with a novella, and then the rest are stories, and I was like, I really want to be able to do that. I want this book to continue living, and I don't want it to be like, oh, here's this thing, and now you get to do whatever. I wouldn't be able to do the cover, which was Ryan Johnson. Ryan, if you're listening, I love you. That I'd worked with for years with Banana Pitch, this project I started in 2014. So anyway, I was like, I'll just do the audiobook. So I applied for a grant because I'm a broke writer, but I ended up getting it. So I was like, oh my God, so I could produce this whole audiobook. That was exciting. And then throughout the process of talking to other writers and creatives, I realized like how often this happens, where someone is so excited about what their book is or what their product, and then either they're not finding the right publishers or agents or representation, and losing some of the control or getting deflated in the process. And I was like, what? This should be like the most exciting thing. Like, I don't have kids. I'm like, this is my child. You just met her birth. And I'm like, this is just such an exciting thing to have in the world, and I want it to be a positive experience. So I kind of started it. I was like, maybe Banana Pitch, this literary magazine that I formed in 2014 and turned into this big variety show that I host in Portland. I was like, what if Banana Pitch just has, at first it was going to be like an artist advocacy wing. I was like, I'm just going to advocate for artists. And I was like, what if I just publish them? And then I was like, well, what if and so I started trying to figure that out. And I was like, I already had the validation of like, publishers wanted it. And I was like, all right, well, fuck them. I'm going to do it myself and do everything myself. And it's been great. Well, I've have amazing, talented people that I know that I've worked with before. Gwen Schulte, who's here, did the layout of this beautiful, she was wonderful to work with. And the cover design, it was such a positive experience instead of this thing that was like, oh, this person. I'm like, I choose every single person that's involved. And so yeah, I ended up forming Banana Pitch Press, and we're a nonprofit. But we did a Kickstarter campaign because I was like, okay, I can't just blindly go into this. I'm mildly business savvy, so I need to make sure to get money first. So I was like, well, what if, all these indie press, I talked to people at Feminist Press and Coffee House Press and all these other independent presses that they're like, well, a lot of times they do a Kickstarter for individual books. And if you get the funding just for the initial costs, so I was like, I guess I'll do that. I did, and we reached the goal, surpassed it. We had some founding editor, Chris Hendricks here. There's just a lot of people chipped in and believed in it. And the more people that got involved, the more I was like, this is where my heart is. This is what I should be doing. So I just signed my first book contract with another writer. Thank you. I have a couple more.
That's amazing. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, I love, Banana Pitch. Feel free to be a founding editor. We can have multiple.
Was it fun to do your own audiobook?
It was so fun. Although I will say at the last minute, there was an editor, an engineer shift. And so the morning of, they were like, okay, your person, we had to find someone else. And he did it. And I was like, hey. It's like, oh man, who is this person? And I'm going to be in there being like, Lola, da-da-da-da-da, or whatever. I was like, oh, what if they're...
Yeah, given the material. I mean, that's a very, different...
Yeah, and I was like, and they're like, just make sure if your producer is there. And I was like, oh, she'll be there. Myself. I was like, oh man, I'm just showing. So I was like, all right, well, I better tough guy it up. And, but he was very sweet. His name was Adam Lee. He was great. So...
Did you sit in the dark?
Him?
No.
He's just back there in the dark. I'm like, Adam, is this recording? No, I sat facing a foam wall. So it was it's much easier to read in front of a crowd. It was so it's hard to warm up at first because I was like, all right, just foam. You hear foam? So I had to pretend there was people there, I guess. But yeah, it was fun though. It was fun.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about the new writer with Banana Pitch. Can you tell us anything at all about the work?
I can. She's a major badass. I'm wondering if she's watching from Philly right now. She's the executive director of the National Women's Roller Derby League. And she's awesome. And so we're
She's doing a memoir, right?
Yeah, a memoirella. So we've coined the phrase. We're doing novellas and memoirellas. Thank you. My intern, my intern is trying to make a Wikipedia page that we're trying to prove that I coined the term. But I was quoted in multiple places, so I'm like, come on, Wikipedia.
Yeah.
But I appreciate their legitimacy, but yeah, she's great, and
She's giving you a memoir, a memoirella.
a memoirella, which is still sort of in memoir form. So we're shrinking it down. But especially because of what's going on in women's sports right now, like she really helped, like she was on the committee to help, televise roller derby on ESPN, and fight for like being able to use whatever pronoun the players wanted. They were like, they, them, no, they're women out there. It was just, so she was like a real advocate in that space. And now, with our climate, she's like, it's go time. It's time to bring the story out. And publishers are taking forever. Like people are interested, but they're like, well, we can have it out earliest is like, fall 2027. And I was like, well, banana pitch, fall 2025, baby. Let's do it. So yeah, we're both kind of kooky. So yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I wanted to open it up a little bit to the audience. If you guys have questions or comments, you seem to be curious and engaged. So if not, I'll just keep going. Oh, there we go.
It seems like because of your previous writing, you didn't have any trouble getting editors or agent or, and all that. Do you have any advice for people who don't have that?
Well, you're unagented, so you can address that.
Yeah. Well, so I actually did not sign with an agent, and started publishing. I publishing short stories and book reviews, and I think I actually had a good friend who's in special effects and makeup who years ago told me she really wanted to shift from being an engineer to that, and her advice that was take any gig at all, no matter what it pays, even if it's nothing, just get the work out there. And now she works with Lucasfilms, and she's like amazing. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. So anyway, so I started like writing for anything and everywhere, and just trying to get as much. I started with music journalism, so I was writing for the Bay Area music scene. So I was just writing stuff, even if some of my first gigs, it was like $5. And I was like, nobody needs to know that. Well, until right now. But it was like, get the portfolio. So that was part of it, I think, is just having some work, but also just being in writing spaces and like being in classes with people and being able to exchange work and get feedback. And
that's so important.
Yeah.
Having a community of writers is so crucial to, it keeps you going, in a very sort of interesting way. You feel like you not only have to be accountable to you, but you're also sort of accountable to them and sort of keeping it up. And there's so many different ways of doing that now. People, I have writing days with people like over Zoom or just over text. We just keep track of what the other person's doing, and it really helps with discipline, because it's really easy to just say, well, this is really hard. I think I'll take a little Netflix break, and then you're gone. But
yeah, definitely accountability. I think reading. I think
absolutely.
But yeah, Walter Stegner, is that his name? So like, if you're not a reader, you might as well forget being a writer.
Yeah.
Is that a really nerdy quote? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a sort of a related question, which is, how do you find being a writer in Portland compared to being in the Bay Area, the literary community?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. We were just talking in the green room, in the green apple room. Yeah, I think so. It's currently actually the second whitest city in America, and it's. I think that it is. Sometimes it just feels like an unsafe space in some ways to be a person, but especially a creative, when you're the only, we have like a room full of white people that are discussing like, because I don't only teach white writers, like we're discussing these other experiences and everyone in the room is the same and everyone's like suddenly trying to get all advocacy for someone else that's not them, or, you know, so I think that that's really like probably my biggest reason why I won't be there forever, because I think unless we can recruit or no, kick out. Yeah, let's kick out some of the whites. No, don't quote me on this. I don't know what I'm saying. Yeah.
Rewind that back.
Yeah, rewind. Yeah, I don't even know if I answered that well, but yeah.
Well, compared to being a writer in the Bay Area, because
Yeah.
what you've done is describe your experience in Portland.
Yeah.
But
I
you
think
had
it's just
a very varied experience in the Bay.
Yeah, and I mean, but I will say, as far as it is a very literary community, so it's like you can go to reading events like every night if you want. There's so many independent bookstores. There's so many people that are down to like have host writing groups, and so yeah, huge book advocates there. I think that's been really great. It's been good for me because I'm like a hustler, so I'm like, I want to host a variety show. I want to do all these things, and they're like, okay, I guess so. There's so many people that want to perform that like everyone wants a new kind of stage. So, but yeah, I do miss good old California. Yeah.
Did you find it hard to find any of your characters' voices?
Craft question.
Gosh, I don't know. Maybe the baby characters. Yeah, I don't know. I guess not. I feel like they were all vaguely semi-based on things, and I shifted them a lot to become these other people. But there's two curly-haired characters, because I'm a big curly-haired advocate. That's a platform for me. I think we have enough curly representation. No, but yeah.
Yes.
Aside from expanding this writing, can you tell us about other writing that you're interested in or working on right now?
Yeah. I just finished a novel a few weeks ago that I am starting to pitch to agents. So
Can you tell us a little bit about what it's about?
oh yes, it's called You Weirdo, and it's about an art
Which
therapist.
is a very Michelle title.
Yeah, it's about an art therapist who uses music and illustration to kind of manipulate reality for both herself and her clients. So if there's any agents listening.
Does it have a title?
Oh, You Weirdo.
You were.
Yeah.
So she was asking about other kinds of writing.
Oh, other kinds of writing.
Yeah.
I say I do have another novella in the works, but that's the same kind of writing.
Are you not doing journalism and reviews and stuff
I
anymore?
am. I did, and I was doing a lot of music journalism. I've mostly shifted to book coverage, so I still cover books for Portland and for the Chronicle here, and then a couple places in Portland. But I'm starting to actually work on a book about writing, and I teach a lot, and like there's so much that comes up in classes that, and actually I remember your class was one of the first classes that we broke down a story in a way that I had never seen, and I was like, man, sometimes we're just like needing some building blocks, even though it's grad school. I'm like, we're not talking about like the craft of the thing and picking it apart, and so that's mostly what I focus on in teaching. And so some of the questions, I'm like, man, I'd love to be able to explain this in a really like digestible and fun way. My teaching motto is, there's no such thing as a stupid question, only a pretentious instructor. And and so I think my classes are fun, I think, but also, yeah, so I want to write, I started kind of writing some essays around craft, but excited to write a book about it as well. So yeah, I don't sleep enough. I'm
I was gonna
kooky.
say, there's so much writing going on.
I just got glasses for the first time. I'm getting, my doctor was like, well, because you're a little cross-eyed. I'm like, I'm cross-eyed? She's like, I'm gonna rest your eyes, man. I'm like, she's like, do these exercises. I'm like, I don't have time for that.
Does anyone else have any other questions? Anybody else? All right, you want to set us off into the universe with another
Ooh,
little section from the book?
yes. I feel like you should meet Lola before we go. All right, so Jane's been fired, and Jack and Jane, and she's applied for this sexting job, and so here she is on her interview with Lola. For the interview, Jane had tied her hair into a big curly bun and wore dangly silver earrings that made her think of a fortune teller. She applied a thick coat of peachy lipstick. A drop of sweat rolled down her side. At the hour, she clicked the link Lola had sent her. For 2 painful minutes, she watched herself on camera as she waited. She parted her lips, tugged a curl loose from her bun so that it hung seductively along the side of her face. She was wearing this mid-length skirt, which she hiked a little higher up her thighs, though her camera only showed her top half. What if Lola asked her to stand up, do a little twirl, show what her mama gave her? Do looks really not matter? Part of the application process included a questionnaire. One question said, convince me to buy a 3-minute custom video of you, aka me, jerking off a plastic sheep while talking about your love of wool sweaters. In a conversational, messagey way, not a newspaper ad sort of way. Jane's answer was, hey babe, what are you up to? I'm wearing this super soft cashmere sweater, and it gave me this idea. It's kind of dirty though. I want to praise sheep for being so good at making wool, but I also want to fuck sheep. Confusing, right? So I have my favorite plastic one here. If I do something kind of kinky with him, will you watch? Jane tried to imagine herself in such a scenario, tried to turn someone on from afar as she took on the persona of a woman fake fucking a plastic sheep. How would she feel if she actually got the job? She tried to imagine herself sitting cross-legged on the floor, scrolling through video content for the perfect clip of Lola jerking off plastic sheep while whispering sweet nothings into its plastic ears. How many videos and pictures of Lola naked or fucking things would Jane have to see? And then a black screen appeared. Lola's camera and mic were both off, but the video said caller had entered the room. Jane's first reaction was that she'd been tricked. There was no Lola on the other end of that camera. Maybe Lola never existed. It was probably some fat old dude who got up and set up these interviews to get off. He just wanted to see what types of chicks would apply to be sexters on behalf of a porn star. He would get to see the women on the other side of those late-night commercials. They weren't blondes. They were frizzy-headed chubby chicks who ate pizza and lazily responded to the men on the line. They'd call other clients sweetie or honey or baby and congratulate them when they came. Jane pressed a tuft of her curly hair behind her ear, thought of Dave's expression, a date she went on, and how poorly he hid his disappointment when he saw what she looked like in person. And then a voice spoke. It sounded like Drew Barrymore. Hey, sorry, 1 second. The screen remained black while caller made rustling sounds like she was just settling in. Jane smiled shyly, looking into the glowing green light that indicated her own camera was on. Her face was in the upper right corner of the screen. She tried not to look at it, and she tried not to think about Dave's feigned smile, and instead, surprisingly, she thought of the look on Jack's face right before they kissed. That's the principle. And then she appeared. Lola. She was sitting cross-legged on a bed, wearing baggy gray sweats and a loose gray sweatshirt that hung off one shoulder. Her hair was blonde, as expected, but it was ratty and pulled to one side like an 80s workout instructor. Lola wore no makeup. She even had gray under her eyes. Like me, Jane thought. Sorry, 1 sec, Lola said again, holding up a finger. Her nails were long and pink and somehow both soothing and annoying when she clacked them on the keys. She was sitting on a plush-looking bed, half a dozen velour pillows arranged neatly along the tufted cloth headboard behind her. Jane imagined Lola filming scenes on that bed. An imaginary hand would push her onto her back. She'd look back at the camera with a face like, "Come and get me." "Okay, anyway," Lola said with a face like, "You know how it is." Jane gestured like, "Do I ever?" "Okay, so first off, I loved your storytelling in your questionnaire. That one about being codfish together, swimming in the darkest crevices of the ocean? The one where I said, 'Be my cockfish'?" "Yes!" Lola snapped her fingers and clapped. She smiled widely. What tiny teeth she had. Does that kind of thing come up a lot?" Jane asked as she touched one of her dangly earrings, wishing she could slip them off. She thought of the phrase, "mutton dressed as lamb." When Lola tilted her head, Jane clarified, "Oh, I mean, pretending to be animals?" "Oh my God, yes, all the time," Lola said. She clapped her palms together so that her shiny pink nails splayed in the shape of a V. She raised her eyebrows up and down and then winked. "It's kind of my brand. Kind of kooky, you know? How do you feel about that?"
So, thank you guys for coming tonight. Books are up front, and don't just buy that, buy a bunch of other stuff. Keep Green Apple in business, because we love this place, and it is just this fantastic institution in San Francisco. And congratulations,
Thank you.
and much, much, much more success. So happy for you.
Thank you, Archie. Thank you.
Can we have one more hand for Michelle Kicherer? Everything Achy just said is perfect and correct, so I will be brief. And the only thing I am going to add, I realize you just said very nice things about our store. That was not what I meant, but thank you so much. I meant about where the books are. And, that was all correct. But I will just let you know one more thing. I'm going to have Michelle signing books at the back desk where my colleague Camila is. Hi, Camila. But yes, books are available at the front register. You can find them there, and then you can bring them back here to have them signed. Please eat more snacks. Please take a look around. And if you have any questions, let me know. If not, we will see you next time. Let's give one more hand for both of our writers.
I eat poop has been in my
There's a book
I have to go see what it is.
Oh,
I
yeah.
haven't eaten it.
It's about diet.